I would like to feed your fingertips to the Wolverines. And with that, started a joyous comedic adventure as part of the National Broadcasting Company, a program known initially as NBC's Saturday Night. You might see a lot of content throughout YouTube and elsewhere celebrating 50 years of Saturday Night Live. And I wanted to do that myself. I wanted to get in on it, but in doing so, I have assembled what some would say is a murderer's row of content contributors and creators. I would like to welcome back to the Bladtcast. This is also streaming on Geekscape, but very excited. More than anything, we like when we have returning champions. For the first time since Bladtcast 244, Mr. Tim Saccardo. Tim, how are you?
Doing great. Welcome to be back.
We're at episode like 630-ish, so that's on me for
every 400 or so I sneak in.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the one and the only way to do it. And
number 1,000 feels like a big number.
Yeah, that might be the good time. Yeah, and not on the Bladtcast since episode 267. My friend Shalako Gordon. Shalako, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Hi. I'm doing great. And
good to see everyone. I apologize for my tardiness.
No, that's all right. You know, we were having the show backstage and then realized, we should actually start the show in front of the stage. And making her triumphant debut on the Bladtcast, heavens no, it's Jenni Kramer, aka Jenni Gilroy, which is really her name. Jenni, how are you?
I'm good. I haven't been on Bladtcast?
I don't think so. No.
Wow.
And that's on me. I was waiting 630 weeks, and we finally hit the milestone. Shalako, I don't know if you know Jenni and Tim. I feel like Tim, you're more likely to have been in the same room as.
We're aware of each other. I feel like we were never at the same time. Never, I don't know if you were before or after me.
I'm 98, 99.
Oh yeah, that was my interning at Conan year, so I was behind you.
Yeah. But we probably crossed because
I'm sure we've been in earlys at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
and I was also class of '99. Jenni, you started in 2000.
February 2000.
February 2000. So there's this very we have a lot of the same friends. Some of whom will be showing up shortly. I can see someone who is putting on a hoodie at the moment, and they want to make a grand entrance, and I don't blame them. They should be given their flowers. And making his first appearance on the Bladtcast since about 2 weeks ago, Thomas J. Kelly.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hello, Tom.
I have a big studio that's not working.
Oh, okay. All right.
I put a lot.
Is that how it was sold to you?
Gone nowhere.
Yeah, it's a secondhand studio. It's actually where they used to do Later Today. Tom, I'll give you a moment to work it out. I'm gonna go clockwise, so you'll get a chance to jump back in if you want to troubleshoot it all. All right, I'll give you a moment. So as we talk about SNL and 50 years, we'll talk about working on it. We'll talk about those of us lucky enough to work on Saturday Night Live 25. And just recently, Saccardo and I had dinner with our friend Stefan. You know what? I won't even say his last name because you never know anymore. A guy we know. And he had 2 of these shirts and he wore holes in them. So sometimes you have to learn the lesson of hang drying your T-shirts and washing them on gentle. But we'll talk about being NBC pages and what that means. I think a lot of people know, but plenty of people don't. Saccardo, I wanted to start with you and get your thoughts. Sort of like, you and I have talked, countless hours about SNL sketches, characters, favorite cast members, and eras. What are your earliest memories of seeing something and going like, oh, this is actually pretty funny, this show here?
It's not even like a guess. I didn't know what SNL was, and I was staying at my grandmother's house. My parents were out of town or something, so I stayed with my grandmother for a few days. And she's like classic old Italian grandmother. She's 4'11" and just cooks ravioli and So we were just watching TV or watching like Saturday night, what was on Golden Girls, like those kind of shows then. And she was like, we saw a promo for SNL, and she was just like, I was like, what's that? Oh, Danny DeVito is going to be on Saturday Night Live. I'm like, I know what Danny DeVito is, but I don't know what Saturday Night Live is. So she let me stay up, and I watched Danny DeVito, like, probably 1987.
Yeah, it may or may not have been a Christmas show. He hosted a couple of times around then. So, but yeah, we were early proponents of the VCR in my home. So I remember an episode with where Christopher Reeve hosted, and one where Tony Danza hosted. But I started regularly.
I know that one well. That was when I started watching. I was recording it by then.
That's the point where I was pretty much in. And the golden era, Saccardo and I mean, the years might be slightly adjusted, but I'm a firm believer that all credit to the original cast, but the golden era of that show for me is 1987 through 1991, 1990. Yeah.
I mean, there's when they say like your era is the your era is the one you found, but also I think that one is also like super high, if not the top.
And within a couple years, I was enjoying it a lot less. So that's what it is. But Shalako, I want to ask you, what are sort of your earliest memories? And there's vague things like I kind of knew what Mr. Bill was, but I didn't see SNL. Like there were Mr. Bill shorts that you'd see, I don't know, on HBO or something. But what are some of your earliest memories, Shalako?
Well, you even kind of brought that up. Like I would see clips first or little things first before I actually watched the show, like kind of religiously. I was a big Eddie Murphy fan, of course, but I saw Eddie Murphy stand up before I actually saw him on Saturday Night Live. So I started getting more into it towards like middle school, high school time. And for me, I'm aging myself, of course, but I guess you could start around like 88, around that, right? A little bit in the time that you were saying. So I would stay up on Saturdays because that was my only time to actually be able to stay up past 9 o'clock. And so I would stay up and just kind of watch all TV, and then I would watch Saturday Night Live. So I guess you could say from 88, pretty much until like now. Like I've just, it's just always been amazing to me because I think, first of all, unscripted comedy, I guess in a way, where even though you have these, the cue cards, it's still kind of like you're improvising and you're making things up on the fly and you're doing all those things. To me, that's just kind of the best comedy. And I love rock. Farley was one of my favorites. Adam Sandler, like those guys. So I always wanted to watch those guys. And then, unfortunately, as I got older in high school age and then even in college, didn't date much. So my Saturday nights were pretty free. So, I just, watch Saturday Night Live, So,
yeah, no, I always recorded it and I would watch it eventually, even on those rare Saturday nights that maybe I was out. Jenni, what about you? What is sort of your earliest memories of Saturday Night Live?
You're good with dates, so you can probably put a year to it, but it was like the SNL Mother's Day special, like the Farley Sandler, Phil Hartman one.
Yeah, I want to say 92, 93, but you can continue and I'll find out.
Like I'm a late adapter. Like I just felt never cool enough to be watching it. And so I remember I recorded that one on like VCR record, and I watched that backwards and forwards and became obsessed with it. So I didn't catch on till the 90s. And so that was like was my group. That was my cast. And then
1992, by the way, according to
okay, I feel better. So it was early 90s.
Yeah.
But then like I probably had it. I had the little TV VCR thing. And so I had a timer for like every Saturday. And
it's quite a flex, Jenni. Oh my gosh. Tell us about the mansion you grew up in, Jenni.
At the risk of interrupting, I did not have that, but what I had was like my parents would usually be up watching a movie or something. So I had like my blank VHS tape with a Post-it note on it explaining to older people how to record. Turn the TV to channel 3, press these 4 buttons on the VCR,
That is impressive. I remember really getting into it like in college. Like I kind of dipped down, and then like college, it was like the Jimmy Fallon. I was obsessed. and I was like recording everything, like Dog Show, Molly Shannon,
Oh.
obsessed.
I did
That
enjoy
was-
some Dog Show. Yeah.
Dog
That
Show.
was my
Yeah, I used to
jam.
love Dog Show. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my
And-
peaks.
And you know, there was that rhythm to Dog Show that was changed into a chant for our friends. So it was Josh Payne instead of Dog Show. But I don't know if I'm allowed to say his last name. Anyway, it's mostly a joke.
Oh, you could believe it, yeah.
Yeah. Thomas J. Kelly, what is your earliest memories of Saturday Night Live?
So it's funny, like talking here with you guys, my dates keep changing. My earliest memory ever was watching it and thinking the Church Lady was a real religious show on late at night.
Well, we like ourselves, don't we, Tommy?
and thinking, because my grandmother would always watch, there was like a religious channel with a nun, Mother Angela, I don't know. Anyway, I thought it was just like the Baptist version of Mother Angela because I only watched it for a few minutes. And then because the Dennis Miller Statue of Liberty looked like the Channel 4 Statue of Liberty that was running locally, I thought, wow, this WNBC news guy's being a jerk. But then when I understood,
hey, why the fuck is Chuck Scarborough playing with his hair? I may have had lunch with him just 3 hours ago.
Chuck
anyway.
Scarborough?
Me? I thought he was dead.
Okay. Chuck Scarborough.
Chuck Scarborough's still with us.
he just
He's still-
He just retired. Yeah.
He just retired. Yeah.
if you
From
still
life?
watch local TV, you'd know that, Jennifer Ann.
I guess I don't.
No, Jenny lives so far out into Jersey that it's that area.
Get
It's
WNBC.
no, it's that area where you get your channels from New York and Philly. She's that far away, and I know it's not.
But to answer concisely, my best years, I think, was the Dana Carvey cast, blah, blah, blah. And then sort of like Shalako, my social life sort of picked up in college. So I missed like the Michael McKean, Chris Elliott years when it was allegedly awful. And then by the time
it's not alleged. Yeah.
Okay, great. I missed it. Not firsthand knowledge there.
Janine Garofalo was on that year. Yeah.
And then by the time I got back into the game was when I was working with you guys or adjacent to working with you guys when the show was picking up steam again. But I'll tell you this. How do I describe how old I am? I got excited when I saw G.E. Smith playing guitar on SNL 50.
Yeah,
I did too, by the way. It was great to see him.
And weirdly, I associate my memories of SNL mostly with my brother's friend Paul sleeping over on Saturday nights. And just the weird things would stick with my brother and Paul, specifically G.E. Smith playing. They would just call him the funky guitar guy and wait for G.E. Smith bumper shots. And then for some reason, Al Franken was getting a lot of airtime, and we might have been the only ones quoting Al Franken bits, which, not to name drop, I told Al Franken as an adult just recently, and Al Franken doesn't care.
No, but he'd care more if Jenny told him that. Allegedly, that's not true. It's just allegedly.
I have a story. Yeah, can I? So if you
have a story you can tell, please tell it.
Yeah, the short story is nothing alleged, but it was a snowy night, not unlike the night it is here in New York City. And we were leaving the comedy club, and Al Franken was supposed to be on the later show that had been canceled. I see him on the street, and I say, Senator Franken, the show has been canceled. Would you like to join us? And it's me and two beautiful women. We're walking to the next comedy club. You're welcome to come for the walk. And what do you know? He says yes, and I'm going to have my chance to just gush and tell him how much his work meant to me as a junior high kid, and he just paid attention to the pretty girls the whole damn time. And then, true story, one of the friends was from another country, and just when there was a minute, I'm like, yeah, he was on Saturday Night Live, and he's a senator. And the friend said, what's a senator?
Well, once he started giving you the cold shoulder, you should have just put your hand out and said, can I have the $550 back that I spent on Stuart Saves His Family? Thank you, Senator.
Oh,
Stuart saves his family. Wow.
I just waited for him to fall asleep and took a perverse picture with him.
You grabbed his boobs? That
Yes.
sounds about right. Yeah, it's I think the quotability of the show is sort of one of those things that you latch onto. My brother's 5 years older than I was, and there's an episode that's not a legendary episode, but I do remember Matthew Modine hosted. So there was a Full Metal Jacket sketch, and Phil Hartman's the Arlie Ermy drill instructor, and he's like, "Look at you, Mister, laughing around, smiling." So my brother and I were just calling everyone like everything from that sketch in 1988. So that golden era for me coincides with when Nick at Night was airing the half-hour reruns of the original cast. So and the 15th anniversary special where you realize like, oh, wait a minute, there's 5 years that nobody ever talks about. Oh yeah, Eddie Murphy was on that show. Where are those sketches? Nowhere. You can't see them. Eventually.
I remember it was a big deal when they released on VHS it was called Best of Eddie Murphy Saturday Night Live, and that was one of the
I had that one.
That was one of the first 1 or 2 VHS tapes I even owned. So
with
what
who
year
shot
was
the tape?
When they slowly started admitting that there was an Eddie Murphy year once.
No, they only talked about Eddie Murphy. They didn't know from Julie Louis-Dreyfus and Tim Kazurinsky. All right. But I mean, it's the Smigel did a cartoon for SNL 25, and there's a joke about the Ebersol people where they were seated, and then they kind of repeated that joke in SNL 50 with Lovitz. But and it's sort of like I still have a People magazine from that 15th anniversary because I was like, I need to know about this stuff. Like, oh yeah, Martin Short was on the show.
I thought it was cool that right around the time I started watching it, it was already like this big extravaganza of special.
Right, exactly. So all of us that you see on your screen, and of course our audio audience that you hear in your ear holes, there's 5 of us here in this installment. We were all pages at NBC, and I would say that the show 30 Rock did us a solid in helping to explain what a page was, except for when people haven't seen it. But when it was on, I was like, if you've seen 30 Rock, Kenneth, that's basically what we were. We had the ugly peacock tie sometimes.
And if they don't know 30 Rock, you have to first explain 30 Rock and then explain what the page program is. So you're in like the double work.
And somehow you end up talking about Tracy Morgan and the Walmart truck. And then the next thing you know, that person's fallen asleep. So, but in any case, you get the opportunity to work on these shows, and you can get assignments where you're posted there, and you spend usually 10 weeks is the way that it would work, and you'd be there for like half a season or whatever. And we'd also seat people in the audiences for these shows. On our, I'll tease a little bit on our next installment. We're going to be talking to our friend Andrew Tavani, who will give you some insights on the ticket fulfillment and how that worked. And what a scam that was. I hope he's willing to tell those stories, because if he's not, I am. But in any case, and I had previously interned at both Conan and SNL. So I had a little bit of some familiarity with the building and some other people. I think the only reason I would ever got to be a page was because of the people who recommended me. It didn't hurt that I interned at SNL for the department where Jeff Zucker's then wife worked. So, sometimes you can get somebody puts in a word for you and doesn't mean anything. That's probably the one time where somebody, I actually called in a legitimate favor.
Yeah, and I did the same thing. I don't know that I would have got the page program if I didn't have Conan people say I wasn't crazy or whatever.
Right. There was a point in my life where I worked for a department where Jeff Zucker's then mistress worked.
I don't even care if that's not true. But,
I like Jeff. Jeff's a good guy.
Yeah.
Hey, anyone deserves both a wife and a mistress, and then also multiple wives. It's him.
He deserves it.
One of the peaks for one of the perks for being in the building and getting to intern at SNL and then be a page was getting to work at SNL and be around that studio and all of that. And as I mentioned earlier, some of us actually, I might be the only one out of the 5 of us who actually worked the SNL 25th.
Oh, really?
I think Tom and Shalako, you both had moved on.
I'm gone.
Yeah, we moved on.
I had shown up like 2 or 3 weeks before. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm the only one that has this picture that I'll have to describe.
Oh,
It looks like they photoshopped her onto a picture of you.
Yes.
It does look that way, but I swear I was standing on the red carpet as someone was interviewing Molly Shannon, and I tried really hard to get the video for it, which in those days was really hard. She actually turned and said something to me at one point, but I got this photo, and that's good enough. I know it doesn't look real, but I was standing on the red carpet, and my buddy Farhad Muhammad, who people know as the voice of the Bladtcast, who's a big aficionado of late night television, SNL included, just shouts out superstar. And I know you're talking about me. So thank you, so it was crazy to get to work on that. And I know that Tavani worked on that. So maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that. But on our next installment, as we say, but talk about
there.
Oh yeah, that's right. I wanted to ask Jenni, who had some photos from that night, but I guess they don't look like this, do they, Jenni?
No.
Yeah.
This is me stalking Victoria Jackson.
All right, hold that up for a second. Hold that up again. All right. Yeah. Fun story.
Nice.
Victoria Jackson, I did escort up that night, so you just missed getting a picture of me.
Garrett Morris.
And Victoria Jackson said she felt like she was going to throw up.
Kevin Nealon, Kyle MacLachlan.
Wow.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Looks like John Mulaney in that one.
Yeah.
Tracy Morgan. So that's why I thought I would see Blatt. Ray Romano.
Ray Romano. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Hold on. My favorite one, Gary Busey, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I mean, okay.
Oh, wow.
I was just saying those are terrible pictures, but then I saw Gary Busey.
I love it. The 50th anniversary show, like you can't even bring your spouse, but Gary Busey gets to go to the 15th. Like that's how much more in demand it is.
Yeah.
But that's me going as a stalker. Like I
picked up on that.
I was going to say, were you working and taking all of those pictures? Like
I was working at Banana Republic. I was not a page.
Yeah, Shalako, she was working at Banana Republic.
Oh, okay.
Street at Rockefeller Center.
Had you already applied to or like interviewed?
I applied for like 17 times, kind of thing.
No, but I mean for the page program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
she was able to get a job at Banana Republic.
I want to know,
like, because 17 applications at Banana Republic.
So I stalked a lot of people, and I went to show tapings, and that's how I got to be a page. Is I went to a Rosie taping, and I'm like, I've applied like 16 times. How do I do? And is Tiffany Mosley a name? Or I think that's wrong.
Yeah. She was
she's like, here's Ann Jackson's fax number. Say you know me. And that's how I got an interview with Ann.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
I think I might have had the easiest, well, I guess not easy, but a weird way. My senior year in college, I went to school in Baltimore, and then I went to a media job fair in Virginia. And I always knew I was going to leave Baltimore when I was done with school, but I met a gentleman there. His name was Tommy Maddox, and he worked in sales. And then we were talking, and he said, oh, well, you want to be in media, you want to be in television and film, all these things. You're moving to New York. I was like, yeah, my plan is to move to New York after school. He's like, oh, you should be a page. And I said, oh, yeah, sure, be a page. But in my head, I'm like, I have no idea what a page is. Like, what's a page? Yeah. And so he gave me his card. He told me to, reach out to him. He would connect me with Ann Jackson. But I didn't speak to Ann the first time. Whoever was the GR person at that time, I spoke to them. I mailed them my resume. I got called in for a one-on-one interview. Just like everyone, I did the one-on-one. I did the group. They called me like right after I did the group and said, okay, cool. We're starting the class in November, but this was like November 97. And I was like, I'm not ready to move to New York yet. So no, I can't do it.
Wow.
And they called me again in December and I said, no. Called me again in January class. And I said, no. And then I decided to come up for the February. And it was always funny. The running joke for me was that like Ann must really have liked me because the people who came before me said they would never get multiple callbacks. Like if you say no once, that's it. Yeah. And because I didn't know how big of a deal it was. Like I just didn't know. And then when I got up here, I was like, wow.
But I think it was like offered to me, like they gave me 2 start dates. I definitely wouldn't have had the balls to be like, never mind. Call me back, maybe.
Hey, check back next month. We'll see if I'm in the mood.
Well, I still had my apartment in Baltimore, and I didn't have anyone could take it over, and I didn't want to break my lease, so I was like, can't go.
They're like, this guy must be really good. He wants nothing to do with us.
So, Saccardo and Tom, I feel like you guys both, having interned at Conan, that really was the leg up for both of you, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was a combination of things because I didn't have Tim's social skills and still don't.
What is the bell? Explain to me what the bell is. I keep hearing it. No one ever said anything. What does it mean?
I use it differently on different episodes, but I was going to keep hitting it until somebody said something.
Okay, I like that it has no rhyme or reason.
Oh, keep it up. I like the bell.
Thank you.
I have on my soundboard. We could turn this into a real 1980s radio show. But back to me. And it's funny. I wish I could get one of my nephews to listen to the stories you guys just told about getting your ass in for a job. I have a nephew who I helped in my own little way, kind of let him hang up my apartment while he was finishing up college. Anyway, and then he said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna want to take 4 months off after school." And I'm like, "No, we didn't have that in the 90s. You're supposed to start calling for a job 2 years early." Anyway, for me, it was if you believe in dominoes of success, it was half the Conan people. And then it was also a woman I went to high school with, Allison Kennedy, worked in human resources. And she got me, I think, the first interview with a woman named Judy Sullivan. Is that a name you'd remember, Shalako? That's some Judy Sullivan. She was like above and separate from Anne. I got my first interview there. And then I went to panel with at least 3 or 4 people who became legendary in my page class, including George Tiggle and Sharon Hardy.
George.
Yeah.
Oh, Sharon.
Yeah. But for like when you talk about just a story like what Jenni was saying, it's to get into the building on any job. I think it takes 10 references and 90 phone calls and a lot of working at Banana Republic and sweater folding.
And in those days, it was about calling and actually having the person be at the desk and answering and not just leaving voicemails. And
the way I got in there, that building as an intern was just like, I watched Conan on TV and I saw like the address or whatever on the credits. God. And I wrote a letter to John Groff, was listed as the head writer. But like, I want to do what you do. Like, tell me how to do it. And he was just like, yeah, that's a long story to tell. But like, if you want to be in the TV business, he gave me Chris DeLuca's contact.
Chris, I know Chris DeLuca.
He was the receptionist and intern coordinator at the time. So that's what got me that interview.
And along those lines of DeLuca and just not and taking the date you're given. Like,
is that a shot? Is that
Shalako, that sounded like a shot. Yeah.
Yeah, we're ripping on this guy for how he totally succeeded.
I mean, you're the only.
I could never succeed like you. You're too good.
Like I had, for me, for the sake of the story, I was a big deal in my college. I was the #1 mass comm student, blah, blah, blah. And nobody could get any good internships for my small little school. And my cousin, who is my age, my twin cousin, I like to call her, was a physical therapy major at Scranton. And she had a drinking buddy who had interned for Chris DeLuca. That's how I got the interview. I skipped a funeral for the interview. And then DeLuca said, yeah, listen, man, if you want the spring, you can take the spring, but you're not going to get the summer. Everybody's, and they made that joke in SNL 50. All the big shots are going to have a nephew there.
I was going to say all of Woody Allen's kids got this summer internship.
You joke, but I was an intern with a Previn kid. I forget his name.
Which one? Is Rowan?
No.
No.
Fletcher,
Ronan Farrow, who looks like Frank Sinatra. No.
It was Fletcher Previn, but he was a nice guy if I remember right. But
I guess I'm going to really kind of piss you guys off a little bit more too, because my whole part of my New York story was that I got an internship at David Letterman, and I got in. I went up to David Letterman, did the whole thing. I was supposed to be in their talent department for David Letterman, and then I turned him.
I love that.
Why?
No, I want to know why did you turn it down?
No. Here's what happened with that one. because David Letterman's interns at the time, and I know, just quick side note, they all lived in one like a building or whatever,
Together?
one house. You know, it was like a real world house, right? It was
I just
like,
want to
it was
interject
crazy.
really quick. Was
Sure.
this an internship for David Letterman, or did you turn down an internship for Nexium?
No. This was actual David Letterman. I was shocked. I sent up my resume. They called me, and I came up. I did the whole thing, and it was a weird kind of housing setup. And I was like, dude, this is just kind of weird. Like, I don't know these guys to be like staying in a house with them in Jersey. And then it was like, we're staying in a house in Jersey, and you're literally at Letterman from like sun up to sundown. Like you're there all day. So I'm like, I don't have any extra money. I already ran out. I was like, I don't want to do this. So I was like, I love David Letterman, but I was like, I can't do this right now. So.
Hey, Shalako, where was this life lesson after? Where was your life lesson before I moved into a railroad apartment with 3 other people that I was pages with? By the way, here's a photo from one of those parties.
Oh, God,
me
yeah.
and Shalako.
Wow.
Oh my
Look
God.
at the hair.
Wow.
Look at that hair.
I look great there. Thanks for noticing. My hair did look good.
Oh, you look great too. You look great. You look great.
Yeah. Interestingly, Tom, you went to Quinnipiac College, and I went to Marist College. And not only is Marist the better polling institute, but we also had a better internship program, only because working on staff at Late Night with Conan O'Brien was Mike Hammocky, who was a proud proud Marist alum, and he lives right down the street from me now. I run into him all the time.
Wow.
So that helped. He had moved on. DeLuca hired me, but he basically had to. And because I could do it every day, I ended up the music intern for the great music coordinator whose name was in the credits. So I'll say that I worked with Debbie Wonder, and she didn't like everybody, but for whatever reason, she liked me. So
that's how I ended up music intern too, because when I showed up to be just like an office intern at the beginning of the summer, there were so many of us that they're just like, all right, some of you guys are just going to come in like 3 days a week or 2 days a week. And I was like, I just fucking moved here. I have nothing else to do. Yeah. And they were like, oh, okay, you could stay here for 5 days a week. And so I did that for a while. And then when you left or when someone else left, they were just like, well, you're a 5 day a week person. You can go work for the band.
I'm going to drop a name. You talk about how loose the internship program was back then. I just literally bumped into on the street Dan Frick. Do you remember him, Tim?
No.
He interned, I think, your summer. I could be wrong about that.
There were so many of us. Maybe. Yeah,
and then he stayed for an entire year, like 5 days a week, just kept going in. And eventually they said, you got to stop working for free.
I thought Dan Frick sounds like a Dickens villain. I don't even know if is that his real name.
His real name is Dan Fuck, but John was censoring it.
So as we talk about getting into that building and being there, and Tim, we have talked about this picture a number of times.
Oh my God!
And Tim, you believe this is the only picture where you're in your page uniform, right?
I know it. I mean, it's the only one. I don't know. I can't say it's the only one in existence.
But it's the only one that you know of. Yeah.
It's the only one I certainly have. It's the only one I'm aware of.
And the only reason I took that photo was because we were partnered up at that point giving tours. My friend Carla was leaving. It was her last day, and I was taking all these pictures, and you were the new kid who was paired up with us. And I was like, oh, new guy, get a picture with me. And that costs like 8 cents in those days. So
I can tell I used look, my hair is neat. My sideburns are impeccable.
And no beard. That's a handsome son of a gun,
What was Sarnoff's first name? That's going to drive
David
Sarnoff.
David, yeah, David.
Mister.
Yeah, look, it's the same guy right there. But
Sarnoff has aged well.
Yeah.
Yes. That's who I am in the picture. Sarnoff.
But so talk about. I'll ask you first, Tim, because you got assignments kind of right away. And but you would still work SNL on weekends, or how often?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. And I was also I was trying to work as many days as possible. Like I was fucking broke. I had a girlfriend in Boston, so I needed bus fare and that kind of thing. So and seriously, I was no money. I remember I was I have $20 this week to spend on food. So I was taking anything I could. So I had the Bano assignment Monday through Friday, and then I would do SNL on available days, or I would, that kind of thing.
And by the way, Bano is as exciting as it sounds.
Broadcast and network scheduling and operations.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it means.
Yeah.
I scheduled.
But basically, what it was is they were the ones who made sure that all the shows that shot in the building were crewed up properly. So like a lot of times it would be me working a shift, and it would be like a cameraman from the Today Show would call in sick, and I would have to call, like I would go to some list and call like these 5 guys and just be like, can you work camera on Today Show? And then, okay it with my boss or whatever. But it was basically just like I had to know all the positions of the tech people on the shows. I had to know the tech managers and studio managers and all that. So it was a little boring, but it was also just like me sitting at a desk writing a Simpsons spec script, like while waiting for those phones to ring.
But tying it into SNL, that was where there was a magic filing cabinet that you were able to write.
Yes.
Talk about that. I think
that was on.
Nerds like me would be excited about that.
I forget what floor it was. It was the floor that the page floor eventually, all the page. When I came in, we were on the mezzanine.
Yeah.
And then we moved up to what number, Tom?
14.
14. Okay.
West.
So I was up there already, and George Mendez was up there already. He was like the studio guy for 8H. I had clocked that he had a bunch of SNL shit on his walls, and I wanted to talk to him about it. And when he found out I was a writer and I was interested in that, he showed me a filing cabinet that was like a file for 2 files actually for each show forever. It was all the scripts. It was all the scripts that aired, and then all the scripts from Dress. And I would just like read them. This was like a do nothing job until like something happened and it was busy. So I was just like reading scripts, photocopying ones, getting scripts from Air and Dress and seeing the differences between them. It was really
nice.
Cool.
So did he keep them? Like, was it his job to keep them?
I think there might have been more SNL people up there. Like, so I think that was just like their archives. If they ever had to go back and look at something, it's like I don't know, going to a folder on your computer's desktop now.
Correct me if I'm wrong. George was there from the beginning, right? Was George? I love George.
I forget, but he was there for certainly an extreme amount of time.
A long time, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Tim, just a final thought on this before we move along. I just want to get your thoughts on, so like maybe not the first time you poke your head in there when you're an intern. Talk about like actually, working as a page on a night that the show's happening and actually being in and around the studio, what that's like after watching it for so long.
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to answer that question and then also answer a question you didn't ask, which is hosts love that, right? It was, so before I talk about going in there, like when it was full and it was about to be before a show, it was fucking cool to go in there when it was empty and just see that. But then also like when I was an intern or a page, I was just like known enough. I guess I could walk by certain places, or it's like other pages were the ones who let you go wherever. I would like go eat lunch in the upper bleachers of 8H on like at Thursdays or Fridays or whatever it was when the bands would do blocking. Yeah, there we go.
Wow.
What?
Nice.
And I remember just like sitting up there in the bleachers, like watching Beck teach his band a new song while I ate a sandwich I brought from home. So that was like very cool. But then what you actually asked me, like, being in that room, feeling the energy, watching just like all the cameras, the cranes and cameras and shit move around on the floor, like hearing the music that means like it's SNL time. It was so good.
Yeah, I know it's very cool, and I think that it's definitely been locked down completely different. No one's having lunch in those studios. I don't even think they take tours.
No, and no one's performing comedy shows on the ninth floor.
Mini control,
with like 90 strangers off the street.
Yeah, and sometimes you notice the Weekend Update set folded up in the corner. So I had somebody take a picture of me in front of it. That is the Colin Quinn Weekend Update set. So,
but without the desk in front of it. Like,
no. I don't know where. No, the desk was all like wrapped up in blankets and stuff like that. Shalako, what was it? What's sort of the first memory you have in terms of like the show happening, or if you also want to talk about it empty, because
well,
you're gonna see me disappear. I'll be right back, but please
no worries.
Oh yeah, I'm gone too, man. Keep talking, we're all paying attention.
Well, no, I'll just make it really quickly, guys, because for me, like I said, coming from Baltimore, living in New York, being in 30 Rock, like of course we all know it's just mind blowing. But then when you get to see the set, when you're doing tours, when you go up to the studio and you're doing tours and you're on ninth floor and you're looking over the glass. It's like, oh my God, like this is like I was just in school, I was just in school, and now I'm here. My friends are now working at Blockbuster, but I'm here, and I'm giving the tours is fine, but it's like it's the tours for me were performance. I would, it was like I was acting anyway, so I didn't really mind the tours too much. But I remember the first show I actually worked in uniform. I was scheduled to be with my man Josh. I guess we're not saying last names, but Josh and I.
Josh Payne.
That's my guy. So it was my guy Josh Payne and I. Yeah, we were on the first floor, and I just was like, this is insane. Like I had never seen anything like it. I never expected it. One thing I will say, and I'm pretty sure we'll get to it. One thing that kind of stuck out to me was, when you think of celebrities and you think of people who are on TV, like I always had a rule of like, I'm not going to talk to them. I'm not going to deal with them. I'm like, whatever. But the SNL people, let me correct myself. Most of the SNL people were some of the nicest people I'd ever met. Like they were awesome. So I was really, like I said, my head was blown. And then you see certain celebrities come through. I remember real quick, one of my first things was the night I did my first job. I saw Harvey Keitel, and I was like, "Oh wow!" It's like, "That's Harvey Keitel," and I don't get starstruck, but I'm like,
"No, but it's the Wolf. Come on!"
Yeah, I'm like, "Wow!" I'm like,
the guy from the piano is here.
Yeah, it just kind of blew me away. And then later, it was so funny. I saw Sonny from The Godfather. Oh. And so
you're gonna say Sonny Bono, and I was like, I don't think that's
no. For the guy who plays Sonny the Godfather, help me out. I'm old. I forgot his name.
Is that James Caan, or am I?
Yeah, James Caan.
Jimmy Caan.
So all of those things were kind of weird for me. And one thing I just do remember really quickly was that the SNL assignment was like the assignment everyone wanted. Everyone wanted that assignment. And I remember putting in for it. Of course, I didn't get it. I don't even know if I got an interview for it. But at that time, I was on the GR desk because I was like Tim. I was also getting a lot of assignments because I was at Nightly for a long time. I was at Nightly News for a long time. And then that summer, before SNL started, I had actually left. Well, no, I didn't leave, but I went to MTV and I did kind of like this internship at MTV 5 days a week. And then I'd go over back to 30 Rock Saturday and Sunday and I give tours. So when I came back, there was no real assignment for me. And I was there on the GR desk. And then Chris Solger.
There's a name.
Yeah, that's all right. That's okay.
Okay, Chris Solger, he gave me the audience coordinator for that season. So then I was the audience coordinator. My man, oh gosh, what's his name? He's going to be so mad at me that I just blanked on his name. As you guys can see, I stuck his name. Tall guy. What's his name? Really tall guy. Stu. Yes.
I'm the only one who remember Stu. All the girls love Stu.
All the girls love Stu. That's probably why I don't remember him anymore, because he took so many girls from me. But Stu was on the seating arrangement. So yeah, I mean, so for me, just to wrap this up, like I said, it was amazing. Yeah. Like it was really amazing. And it was something, it's something that you can get lost in, because I kind of started convincing myself. And remember, like I said, I'm right out of school. So I'm like, this is what it's supposed to be like. This is the industry, And so and when you're doing the audience coordinator, I started calling the ninth floor my floor. I'm like, if you're coming up on my floor, and then if someone wanted to get in the studio, I was like, oh, you can't come into my studio. I remember the first celebrity I had to tell they couldn't come into the studio. That's how I knew the show was so big. I'm like,
who was it?
The first person, you probably don't remember. There was two people that night, but the first person was a guy who, for me growing up, was like, I've seen him on TV all the time. I loved him. It was Sinbad. And Sinbad came up and he wanted to come see the studio. And I remember I went to Ayala because I'm like, it's Sinbad. I gotta get him a seat. It's Sinbad. And she's like, who? And I'm like,
what?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this show is different. This is different. This isn't the same. So I'm like, sorry, you know, I can't let you in. And then remember Isaiah Thomas.
Different world who work on NBC shows. Come on.
Yeah, it was just different. And then I remember Isaiah Thomas, who at the time was on NBC Sports.
Yeah,
he wanted to come in, and I had to tell him no. And then I was like, wow, like this is a different thing. So I only say that to say, being a part of the show, like being there, even though you're getting paid through NBC, you feel like you're a part of the show. You know what I mean? Like this is now I'm a part of this show. You know, I would hang out. You talking to Tracy, the after parties. Tracy was just like, hey, come on. And I'm like, okay. So I'm hanging out with Tracy. So you feel like you're like, oh, this is it. This is life. I brought my ex-girlfriend up, you know, to the show and everything, and I'm impressing her. So I'm only saying it because it's mind-blowing, and it could really kind of screw you up, you know. But it's the most amazing experience I think you would probably ever have in entertainment. So that's really kind of how I felt.
No, it's interesting because you get the sense for how locked down it is. People who are executives and the titans of industry, if you will, trying to get into the show and get tickets are like, yeah, no, there's people who work at NBC probably now and maybe even have for 30, 40 years who've probably still never seen Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But dozens of my friends got to go. So you need to know the pages. That's where the real power is.
That's where the real
by the
power
way,
is.
Farad Muhammad says, "Who is Sinbad?" Second,
Oh gosh,
who knows who knows a fun fact? Sinbad won Star Search.
What?
Does anyone
I
know?
knew that.
Does anyone know the comedian that he beat?
Dennis Miller.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know.
I watched that. That was like my hate. I used to think Star Search was awesome, but I wanted like more comedians than not. I remember.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
By the way, just something we were talking about earlier. At least as recently as 2016, tours visit SNL in the upper bleachers. That's how it was. I don't think it's the case anymore. You almost never got to go on the 8th floor. You only went to the upper bleachers.
Yeah.
So being on that floor, that's when I was a page long enough where you're seating people in those chairs that anybody who watches the show knows there's 38 seats right by the stage. And yes, I still remember the number. Yeah, 19 on each side. And those were like the most important people, but there's a certain point, it's like 11:27. Like, I don't care whose name's on that seat. You have to get someone. So that's when I'd immediately go grab my friends who were sitting off in the side. I'm like, believe me, you're going to want to come with me. And then I would put them there so people would get to see that. And so, I mean,
8th floor seating once, and I used to be like super jealous about it. And like, well, they let everybody do it. And then I realized, I'm like, well, they don't. The goal of it isn't to like make sure everybody shares equally. It's to make sure the job gets done, nothing gets fucked up.
Yeah.
So have the same person do it over and over and over and over, right?
Right.
I have an 8th floor story, but I don't know if I should tell it actually on this.
That means you should tell.
Well, that means you should tell it, but I'll let you know because
we move on, and then maybe we'll come back.
We'll move on. Yeah. Jenny, what about getting into the studio after having to, look from the other side of the barricade at those of us who ended up with these T-shirts?
Well, back in those days, to get tickets to SNL, lay people, you sent in a postcard in August. And I guess it was 99. I sent in like a bunch of postcards.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm still Banana Republic, and I get 2 tickets to go see Freddie Prinze Jr. So that was the first time I was in the studio, was to see that. And it was just like I don't think I wasn't there as an out-of-body experience. I laughed at of course you're laughing at everything, but like, you'll hear my laugh. Like, I mean,
for those of us who know Jenny, we would recognize her laugh. Yeah.
I was, at least at the Conan audiences, whenever I was there as a page, I was told not to laugh because it was too loud. But on so many SNLs, you can definitely hear me. But so that was like, holy shit. And then after
I'm just going to interrupt for a second because it ties into that. So the first time that I was actually in there for a show, I went to dress rehearsal. It was John Lovitz and Jane's Addiction was the host in November 97. And it was because I was an intern at Conan. There was a talent booker who worked on both shows. So I was able to go to that show. And I went to dress rehearsal. And I have, out in my office, I have a VHS of this. This is an important fact, that the dress rehearsal is longer. For people that don't know, the whole thing's like 2 hours. One of the segments that is longer is Weekend Update. They have 10 to 12 extra jokes. This is when Norm Macdonald was hosting Weekend Update. And we all talk about Norm and we all celebrate Norm now. Norm was an acquired taste always. And there are jokes from that rehearsal that I went to in Weekend Update that just die. And the silence is so deafening. And Norm's face made me laugh so hard. I don't have a Jenni Gilroy laugh, but you can hear me laughing. I'm the only voice out of 250 people laughing at Norm's jokes.
Have you ever found that tape?
No, I have it. Yeah. When
How'd you get it?
Because I was still an intern. A few months later, I was an intern at SNL, so I recorded it. Yeah, they always record the dress rehearsals.
When I was an intern at Conan, I was on the show a couple times, and I pulled the tape, made a million copies.
Made my own copy. Yeah, I made tapes of many episodes and favorite sketches. But back to Jenni being in there for the first time. Yeah.
Well, I hate to sound too bitter, but like it's the same kind of thing where like once I worked there as a page, and I was only there for a little bit, but I was still like kind of junior. So I guess that was like the spring, and
Little Jenni Jr.
I was waiting for that.
But like, you feel like you're a part of the show.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I tell Jason Lee where to sit. You know, it's not like you're a part of the show. But
hey, Earl, sit down.
But in your head, you feel like you should be there. Like I don't like I never was at the level where I was a strong enough writer or actor or any kind of thing where I should actually be a part of the show other than the bathroom is this way. But it screws with your mind. Like you think like you should be that good, but you're not. And I remember I was doing sometimes I have like the talent people be like, okay, guard Lauren's office page. And I'm like, okay. And they give me like a list of people. And I see Natasha Lyonne walk by, but her name wasn't on the list. And I'm like, right, this I'm going to tell Natasha Lyonne what to do. And then there's like old people who looked like someone's parents, like looking. And one of the talent people, won't even say, comes over to me and just chews me out. And I couldn't even stay for the rest of it. And I was just sent home. And I was just bawling in my, Arecibo? No, who was the car company that we always used?
Minuteman.
10 minutes. Oh, yeah. I was bawling because it's like, it was that realization, like, you're not a part of this. Like you aren't in American Pie. Like you are not a celebrity. You are a lady in a smelly polyester suit. And it was
that is one of the many nicknames we had for you, Jenni. I won't say the other ones. Tom, here's a favorite memory.
I was looking at those this week.
Yeah. Well, because you knew we were doing this and you knew I had these. Yeah, this is the candy store. There's one guy who's happier than the other because this is the guy on the left's last day as an NBC page because he was leaving to go work on the Rosie. Yeah. But keeping it to SNL, talk about actually getting to be around the show. Well, let me ask that first. Sort of the first time that you got to do that.
So I don't have a first time memory, but I'll tell you the emotions I got watching SNL 50. First, to Tim Saccardo's point about walking to the NBC sets when they were empty. I just posted Tim an Instagram video of me sneaking onto the set about a year ago.
How did that happen?
I was working for Mary Gallagher in the old Rosie studio to do warm up for Lester Holt and NBC Nightly News Kids. They do an annual kids show where I have got to live my dream of doing warm up in Rockefeller Plaza.
For Nightly News
show, yeah, and the news, yeah, but yeah, kids and a news show. But what are you gonna do? You know, what are you gonna do? We have dreams come true. Back
with Rosie.
Dreams come true at Rosie. But keeping it to SNL, I used to sneak onto the Conan set and write at Conan's desk sometimes.
Oh, wow.
After hours. And again, none of these doors were locked when we were there. None of them were locked. And I happened to, and then, I would sometimes sit in SNL to try to soak in the energy. My relationship with Saturday Night Live is very emotionally complicated. Because I really went in there and wasn't sure why I wasn't running the place my first week.
By the way, we were all surprised you weren't running the place. We didn't understand it either. It's not just you.
Well, it was for me. It was kind of like being behind a glass wall and seeing my dreams happening, and other people live them. I only now, at the age of 48, and after watching how self-important some of that special was, I don't think I could have fit in with the trying to be one of the cool kids, which I didn't, and I don't think I could have fit in with the rejection and human emotions they sort of snuck in there, like the Mulaney talking about, sketches getting rejected, this, that, and the other thing. I couldn't even handle the difference between working on the 9th floor over the 8th floor, but I did have one amazing job at SNL. I was a talent escort, and it's sort of similar to Jenni's story, where there were 2 women who were the talent escort. And God, that sounds like I was a prostitute now that I'm saying.
That's why I'm smirking.
Talent
title. That was the job title. I was an escort.
Yeah, and it was usually women. Go figure. I think they were trying to tell them something.
I think I remember that time, Tom.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to remember the story. Shalako and I were pages for a chunk of our times together. Shalako is definitely going to remember the story. There were 2 women who had the escort job.
And let me just interject. Just don't use anybody's last names.
Yeah, for this one, I'm not going to.
Yeah, okay.
Even though, I forget, it was... she was Indian, and I can't remember if Shashemi Shu. You'll know it, Shalako.
I know her name.
Who is it?
No,
Rashmi.
We're not using names
in there somewhere.
Right.
Anyway,
all right.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm not going to say her name. What was this broad's name? Thanks.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I love Rashmi. That's my girl.
She got screwed in this one. And then there was another woman who was beautiful and fun, and she wouldn't mind me saying her name in this story. But basically,
not if you keep complimenting her. No, keep going.
It was Jenni. It's all right.
It was one of my page crushes. Anyway, back to me. The job of the SNL talent escort was to go essentially to walk famous people up to the show, and then also to keep regular people out of the VIP room at the party. And before I got there were 2 beautiful women who were young in their 20s, and they would be invited to hang out in the VIP room, and they did. And the second woman wound up not only dating a publicist at SNL, but marrying him and having children with him many years later.
Yeah.
Somebody at the show did not like that while they were romancing each other, and they got fired 6 shows in out of 12 or 5 out of 10. So now they bring in the 2 nerdiest pages on the payroll because no one will invite us into the VIP room. Yeah. And they invite me and Sharon Hardy to not only walk famous people up, but to keep the union guys and the no-name people out of the VIP room. And I'm pretty sure on one of those parties, I had all the union guys in the VIP room and the regular people were at the regular bar. Like, I just did it complete. I was not good at it at all. I think I turned down I turned down Chris Farley's grieving brother from the VIP room. I had no...
Was it Kevin?
He looked just like Chris Farley.
Yeah, you made the right call. Believe me.
But the line was too. Tom, he looks just like Chris Farley. How could you not know? Anyway, and then I thought I would get the SNL desk because I still felt people loved me, and I didn't get the SNL desk assignment. And that, outside of death and real life tragedy, was the worst day of my life because I only had one shot at it. I had put all my eggs in the carton of getting that job. And yeah, I thought that would be, and the way it was presented and put on such a pedestal when we were there, that if you had the 8H desk job, you'll go anywhere in life. You're going to, girls will like you. You're going to be friends with Lauren and you'll get your own TV show. It was on such a high pedestal. And I remember just having drinks at one of the SNL after parties with Dino Badala and Josh Payne. And both of them saying, well, you're the heir apparent. because they had each had the desk, and then like a week later I was not. And anyway, I was shattered, and in the end it was a great thing that happened. I mean, my page program career was a mess, but it turned out every messy thing turned out to be something that led to me success later. But yeah, anyway, I loved being around it. I mean, I know it sounds
no, that's the exciting thing. And to the point of the page desk outside the studio, that's like long before I even thought of being an intern or a page. You would see it on the show. You would see they'd go out to the page desk. You'd see it outside Conan when that was Letterman's studio. You'd see the page desk. So you knew what that was. That's how I knew what a page was, because I would see them on the show. And I don't think I knew that was the term. But it was a very tough assignment to get, this coming from someone who was able to pull strings and get myself that desk for a total of 3 weeks, because two people who had that assignment had jobs. They had to start immediately. They could not do it. So I had interned there.
Is that all you did? 3 weeks?
Well, I did the last 2 weeks of the season, the 98-99 season, because that's what they needed to fill in that moment. And I knew Ayala Cohen, her name's in the credits, because I had been an intern. Yeah. So I asked her, and she's like, oh, yeah, no, we'll make this happen. And it makes perfect sense for you to do it. And so I called her, and we worked it out. And so I did it for those last 2 weeks, not knowing that people within the page program had two other people they wanted to plug into that role, but hadn't told anyone. So I leapfrogged someone, and I felt very bad, but people didn't believe me that I didn't know. But it's like, well, you didn't tell anybody. So I screwed up your secret plan because it was a secret. But anyway, that's not what this episode's about. So I did it for those 2 weeks. And then I came back to do it a third week to train the new people. And that third week was Saturday Night Live 25. So I was the extra at the page desk for Saturday Night Live 25. And part of what I did is I escorted talent up to their dressing rooms. And Tom, you and I talked about this fairly recently on my podcast, The Bladtcast, which some of you are seeing this there, some of you are seeing it elsewhere. Tim heard this story like a month ago, but there was a girl we worked with whose name I won't say, who all she wanted to do was escort Jerry Seinfeld up the elevator and bring him to the studio. And we were all, 23, 24. So she's like, look, it doesn't matter who else I get. I just want to escort Jerry Seinfeld. And I just looked at her and I said, honey, you're way too old for him. Because, of course, at that point, his girlfriend was 16. And I don't know. Some of us had 17. About it. Yeah. And there's a comments in the private chat. Yes, that's who it is. But that's fine. So, but the fun thing is that I only wanted to escort up Dennis Miller, and I did, and I talked to him. And I was like, that's everything that I wanted, was just talk to him. So I'm up in the elevator and made very light small talk. He talked about why he hadn't been back to the show. He also hasn't been back since. And so that was fun for me.
That's so cool.
I took Billy Crystal up, and dumb luck, Billy Crystal was put in his old dressing room for the year he was a cast member. And so then he started to tell me about everybody's dressing rooms. He's telling me all these stories. I'm like, oh, I got to get back to the desk, but I'm not leaving Mr. Saturday Night hanging, So there's a lot of like really fun stuff that happens. And Shalako, what you were saying earlier, a lot of people that were in the cast, the majority of the cast were really nice. And then there was Chris Kattan. But, for the most part, a lot of people were really nice. A lot of people were really nice and were great to talk to. And Tim Meadows, literally one of the nicest humans I've ever met. He recognized me at the farmer's market in LA, like years later. And I was like, all right, and I was with my dad. Awesome. So I got to look like a big shot in front of my dad. He's like, that guy's on TV. I'm like, he's not just on TV. He's the ladies' man.
The ladies' man.
Ooh, I love lady. That sketch. So in any case, yeah, go ahead, Tom.
One thing, there was a sketch in SNL 50, and I'm sure we're going to talk about the whole special in the third hour. But
no. We will transition to talking about the special.
Relevant to what
Tom, it's like you came to rehearsal and knew that this was the point where we were going to talk about it.
Well, but on 2.5 hours into the show, which is about as far as I got, there was a song. Everyone at SNL has anxiety.
Yeah.
And the sketch was awful, but it rang through on an emotion for me, which was I was just an usher.
Yeah.
I loved it. I don't know if it's because of I was young with you guys, or if I was around something so big and historic and I knew it. And yet I also wanted more. And I think everybody there wanted something more. And what was cool about that song was it was nice to know that show didn't just screw me up. It screwed up much more successful people.
It's a very stressful thing to be around.
Very stressful.
I learned that as an intern, just in the days as the week went along, and just kind of lingering in the research department where my internship was, because I could hear the conference room when they would do the read through. So I'm just like, oh, I should have gone home like 3 hours ago, but I'm not going anywhere. Fun fact, by the way, they do the read throughs inside 8H now. They're much bigger, and they're a lot bigger than they used to be. And you could just kind of see the look on everybody's faces, because I think a lot of people, there's a special on Peacock that kind of talks about the way that the week works and all that, and how it's like, oh no, you got to stay up and write all night. And Larry David, being the most infamous writer, who was like, "Where are you going?" "I'm going home because I'm done. I finished writing my sketches." No, we stay up all night. "What for?" I'm done. And Tim, you worked on like comedies where you do stay there all night, and I've never actually had that. There has to be a reason for that.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, in my case, it was, I suppose that the broad case is the same. It's like there's fucking show you got to do, and like you got to be ready for it. But a lot of times it was just it's like. For Community, which is what you're talking about, it was perfectionism. Like my boss didn't like something, so we'd throw it out and we'd do it again and we'd do it again. And the reason it wasn't like come in tomorrow is because like, well, it's Monday at 6 a.m. There's going to be, fucking $250,000 worth of actors and cameras and sets. And like someone needs to say go, and they need to have something to say. So like you had to finish it. So if it was 4 a.m. and you weren't done, like tough shit, you have 2 hours, get it done. Like I mean, it's not necessarily the way it should work, but usually if you're working at night, it's because you got behind somehow, or there was a problem, or there was, sometimes it wasn't even just perfectionism. It would just be like, so-and-so got sick, so we need to rewrite a scene tomorrow with a different actor in it. And you got 3 hours to do that. And like, I guess you could say like, but my work-life balance. And it's like, yes, but also money. And then,
and look, I mean, the famous saying about SNL is that the show doesn't go on because it's ready. The show goes on because it's Saturday at 11:30. So it's like if you go home at 4 p.m. like Larry David on Tuesday, it's like the read-through is tomorrow, and just because you thought your sketch was done doesn't mean that it's as great as it can be. Do you want it to get on the show? Because if it doesn't get on the show, you get fired. And if you're Larry David, you just quit and then come back like he wrote into Seinfeld. But anyway. There is. I do understand it. I've just never lived it.
The weird thing about SNL to me is I am with Larry David a little bit. It was just like it wasn't just like, oh fuck, there's something went wrong, we got to write late night. It's just like, no, it's built into the schedule that everyone stays there till the sun rises. But like, what if you? Because you write your own sketches. What if you woke up a little earlier and started working earlier? Like, do you have to hang around? Then it's just like performative, right? It's just like, look at me, I'm part of the gang. I'm working so late.
Well, actually, my question for you, Tim, is there a value to having a bigger gang all suffering together as a writer?
No, we would do shit like you have people go home, getting a good night's sleep, so you can come in the next morning and work on a different thing. So it wasn't like, I mean, yes, sometimes the whole staff would get burnt out, but sometimes it would just be like, all right, we're splitting it up. Like the late crew is staying late, and then, the early crew is coming in early with like hopefully more sleep and energy, because there's usually like 10 fires to put out.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing too with SNL is that they're going to be rewriting it after the dress rehearsal anyway, and after the read through. So there's all these times, and I think that people are a lot more aware of it now. But the first time that I learned that they always tell the cast and the host, like, don't learn the sketches. You have to read the cue cards because they change the jokes sometimes right before they're on air. So it's always a fluid situation, and like all of that was so fascinating to watch because it's like, in 1999, 1998, when I was an intern, you didn't necessarily know all that stuff. I want to ask each of you just sort of overall thoughts about the SNL 50th special. It was 3.5 hours. We're not going to break it down. But Tim, what stood out for you? Something good and maybe something bad if something comes immediately.
Honestly, like I shit on the show all the time. Like that's part of loving it. Yeah. But like I thought the anniversary show was excellent. I had no problems with it. I thought it was all like good enough to very good in my opinion.
Right.
And one of the things I really liked about it, and I can't remember if the 40th did this too, maybe it was a slow progression, but like the early anniversary shows were like awesome clip shows.
Yeah.
Right. And it was also in an era where like you couldn't just like, tap on your computer and all the clips would show up. Now it's just like we've seen the clip show packages. We've seen any sketch you ever want to see, you can just type it and see it in a second. So like kind of showing old footage is less valuable. I thought it was awesome that what they did is they did new material with hosts of kind of different eras to try to represent different eras, and they threw in what I thought was pretty well chosen celebrity either cameos, whether they be friends of the show or just kind of like people who happen to work pretty well. Like, I don't know. I thought it was fun to have a bunch of new entertainment, and it felt more like the spirit of the show than like everybody gathering to watch small videos.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the clip packages for the 15th anniversary were played again in the 25th anniversary. And then there were,
the same ones.
Well,
that's
some
probably
of them
what I'm thinking of. I remember being like, we just show this all the time.
Yeah. We're going to do that again. Yeah. And I did like sort of what you're talking about, getting new content. What I didn't like about the 40th, which I remember watching with you, Tim, was when they were like, okay, we're going to have Emma Stone as Rosanna Dana, and we're going to have Matt Foley, but it's going to be, oh my God, I blanked on her name from Bridesmaids.
Kristen Wiig?
No,
it's Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, I guess I admire that as like an interesting take, but like this felt more like a celebration of the actual show.
That's what I'm saying. It's
you're super pumped when like Mike Myers comes out and does coffee talk, and you're like, it's cool to see Dratch. It's cool to see everybody bring their hits back, and I thought they, for the most part, picked things that like, we all have our favorites and least favorites. Like, I don't think they did any of my least favorites, which is nice. So I was happy to hang out with each sketch for a while.
Yeah, there was no mango. I don't know why I picked that one. I don't know why I would have said that.
It was bad and done often.
No Mr. Peepers. No Mr. Peepers. Shalako, what were your thoughts, good, bad, or even indifferent about the anniversary special?
Well, for the anniversary special itself, like I came in just previously watching the concert that they had at the Radio City Music Hall. I watched it on Peacock, and I thought the concert was amazing. I thought it looked amazing. I mean, it sounded amazing. Like I thought everything was good, and I was talking to my friends, and I'm like, man, they're going to get an Emmy nomination for this. Like, this is going to be great. So I went into the special not thinking that they would kind of overdo that, because I know how hard sketch comedy is, and trying to kind of, like you said, stay relevant, but also, pay respect to the past and all of those things. But I thought it was actually really good. My favorite, of course, I'm no surprise, but I guess I'm a fan of Black Jeopardy. I thought it's hilarious. And then having Eddie Murphy do Tracy Morgan better than Tracy Morgan while Tracy was there. Like I was on the floor. I love that because
it was like a joke on a joke, but in a good way, because you got like the jokes from like classic Black Jeopardy, but also just new jokes of Eddie Murphy fucking killing it, which was like also a theme of the night.
Yeah, because Eddie is Eddie, and then the one thing I didn't like, when you think of it, didn't like for that sketch, I thought Tom Hanks didn't need to be there.
Yes,
they could have Tom Hanks.
Too much.
I think that like the legacy of the show, each of the sketches went on a little longer than it needed to. And interesting, keeping with the tradition of the show, it's usually a 90-minute show, and usually you get about 40 good minutes. This case, it was 3.5 hours, and I felt like I got about 40 good minutes. But there were things that I'm like, oh, this is interesting. The Mulaney thing that they've done before, where it's all the musical numbers. I was like, I wish we'd all sat down when David Spade sat there, just because it goes on, and it's not even like it's not funny. I was just like, but not realizing that they had 3.5 hours to work with. So I was thinking, I'm like, man, what are they going to squeeze out? And the answer is nothing. I'm going to ask Jenni your thoughts in a second, but what I liked was that when they brought back recurring characters, we got to see the intros from way back then, including Debbie Downer.
Yes,
on the right is our friend Shalair, who was featured in the Debbie Downer intro.
Yep.
And she sure was that night. So that was actually a lot of fun to see. But Jenni, your thoughts, good, bad.
Oh wait, I wasn't. Just one more. Just one more really quickly. I'm sorry, Jenni. I would never take up any of your time, but.
It's all right. You're taking up Tom's time. Jenni gets all.
It's totally. We take up Tom's time, not Jenni's time. But no, I thought the prison sketch was actually kind of really, really good. You know, well written, improvised, all of that. Like that was, because I clearly Will didn't wear those shorts in like dress rehearsal or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I love that he decided to come out there and break everyone and do the whole thing. I thought that was great, and I love seeing Molly molest Bad Bunny. I thought that was great. She was having a good time, and so those three were like my top sketches for the show.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree on that. The prison sketch, like when they'd done that sketch before, I always liked it. So this was definitely
the twist of Eddie Murphy doing his own movie was.
I know. I'm
a fun new wrinkle, right?
And by the way, Shalako, when you mentioned Molly Shannon, you mean my best friend Molly Shannon.
Yes, your best friend.
In this photo.
Wait, where's my Molly photo? I'm gonna show you my Molly photo.
All right, Jenni, what are your thoughts on the
have a
SNL
Molly
50th
photo.
special?
I loved it, so I'm not like you, Mr. 45 minutes. I'm surprised.
That was mostly a joke, but yes.
My 9-year-old, I'm surprised she hasn't made a cameo.
Wait a minute, your daughter's on Cameo? How much does she charge for a video?
She should. She'll do anything for $5.
Whereas I'm on OnlyFans.
Whoa.
That's not a joke? Okay. So originally, my husband and I are like, she can't watch it. But I'm like, if it's airing at 8, then they must be showing things that like anyone can watch, right? And so I don't know if it was the first one, but it's the one we called her in for. The tiny hands.
Lawrence Welk. I think that was basically the beginning of the show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's obsessed with that. She got like a pair of like tiny hands. It's like a gag gift for Christmas. And so then we showed her that like on YouTube, and then we're like, come in here, Lucy. And she was just crying. She knows the entire thing by heart at this point. And then the next one was the Domingo, which she also knows by heart.
Oh wow, good for Domingo.
Like the original one,
right?
And it was
a sketch that featured my friend Molly Shannon. But go on.
Yes, it did. But like, it was weird having like my 9-year-old seeing like. I was less into like the current ones, like the Domingo ones and the whatever. It's like whatever. But like to her, like that's her core memory. She's like, this is my show because of Domingo. But at the beginning,
very funny.
I didn't like how much they were used. I'm a huge Sabrina Carpenter fan, but I'm like, you don't get to open the show
too much.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, okay, I like that she's with Paul. Okay, like they're singing, and then at the end, Sabrina had her hand like around like Lauren. I'm like, what? Like you're not buds. Like you're not. This is the goodbyes. You do not put your arm around Lauren. Like this is freaky. So that was too much for me. But like I learned.
There you go.
Hold on.
Hang on. Leave it there.
I want to see it big. Enhance.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Oh, it's pain too.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Will looks like a baby.
Yeah. That was the season finale night where the host was David Duchovny and the musical guest, get this, Diddy and Robert
Jimmy Page.
Jimmy Page. There you go.
I was an intern for that
soundtrack
show.
Song they had.
So I went to the music rehearsal on Thursday for that. I would always find an excuse to stick my head in the studio for that. And I remember that the way that it was framed, there's like a music stand and the music's on it, and it says Kashmir, which is the Led Zeppelin song. And then on the show, they've replaced it. They've just like put a little piece of paper over it. Whatever that, so Come Fly Away. I don't even know what's the name of that song. They changed it because Come with me. Yeah.
So that's like they just play Kashmir and he goes, come with me. And then like they just play one of the most famous songs ever behind him. He's like, Godzilla was really big, y'all. Like,
something like that.
You're right.
Chris Totthill's in the chat. I missed a lot, but Sandler's tribute song was the best. He's a great talent. A lot of people spoke to that. What I loved about that is he shouted out, cast members we all know, but what that must have felt like for Melanie Hudsell. To be in his song, and
I thought that was cool, a cool move to like his friend from that era.
No, exactly. Tom, I wanted to ask your thoughts on the SNL 50th. You said you watched 2.5 of the 3.5 hours.
So I watched it bastardized on TikTok until I got it bootlegged on Peacock.
Oh my God.
No, and I really, you guys said everything perfectly, each in your own way. What I wanted was more and less of it at the same time, if that makes sense.
Kind of, yeah.
And the one thing that I think that young Lucy, my nephews, and kids those age won't understand is that was the end of TV and that we could all watch together. Yeah. I understand why Lauren had Sabrina in there, in that she is, to kids Lucy's age to a little older, she is Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is over. We just don't know it yet. The news hasn't trickled up to us yet. But yet,
he said it, Swifties. He said it. We didn't say it.
Tom,
he said it.
She made like $10 billion last year.
But
the reason Sabrina Carpenter is there is because Taylor Swift said no.
No. Hear me now, believe me later, old white man.
I love that.
Hear me now, believe me later. Sabrina Carpenter, for the kids that are a little bit older than Lucy, is Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift is making money off of people our age, but Sabrina Carpenter is going to be the next big thing. And that's the one thing I think that I forgot that SNL did, that I got from the special, which is that Lauren was anointing what would be cool next year. He didn't just book the big guest. He booked the person who was about to break.
Can you talk about how Taylor Swift is?
She's pretty broken already.
She's recording with Dolly Parton. It's okay.
Tom, when you're ISO'd on the big close-up, can you talk about how Taylor Swift is over without any of us getting?
Yeah, I'm gonna step out here. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, for all the Swifties watching the Bladtcast.
Oh, and there are many.
They're everywhere.
By the way, finish your thoughts. Sorry, I just we blur out some faces of people that we don't even know who probably aren't alive anymore. Yeah,
I'll finish my thought on this.
Joe Torre.
only with his face obscured. Yeah. Tom has the actual photo. That guy doesn't look like Joe Torre. But finish your thought.
Got it. No, well, I don't know if what I have to say is really worthwhile anymore. But no, no. But the smartest thing, what I thought was powerful, was how many people that we idolize was in that room for the studio taping. How many people we idolize was at the plaza after. Yeah. And I wanted really all those sketches cut in half. I wanted more people in that room in there, because I don't think we're ever going to see, and I don't think Lucy's generation will see, a show where we're starstruck by almost everybody. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Tom, but it's just kind of even playing with what you're saying, because I was telling my son this. My son is 16. Is that this is the biggest show in New York.
Yeah.
No matter how many times people want to say, I mean, not even probably just the biggest show, period. SNL should be canceled, or it's not funny anymore, whatever.
Hey, I got it. How about this, Shalako? Saturday Night Dead, huh?
Yeah, exactly. But every Saturday, you can count how many celebrities or wannabe celebrities or C-listers, B-listers, whatever, would show up for this show. It's the biggest show in New York. I had job interviews that I would go on that I really wanted. They look at my resume, and of course you put it on your resume, NBC page, Saturday Night Live, whatever, and they'd see Saturday Night Live, and I spend the entire interview talking about Saturday Night Live. You know, or someone would tell me a story about how they, you know, almost got in there, and so forth and so on. Like, so just seeing all of those celebrities there for me just really is just a validation of the fact that it, like, no matter how you feel about Lorne, like, he created probably the biggest and best show in entertainment history. I mean, it's so that's why I said
it's the last holdover from the big broadcast era. It's the last huge monoculture event thing that everybody knows. Like, you know, you can't create a new thing like that. It can only have existed before.
To verbalize, Tim sort of verbalized my feelings that what sort of struck me during that show was, wow, this is big, and we will never see this again.
To Shalako's point about the resume, I certainly had Saturday Night Live on my resume, and people did want to talk about it. I also had White House intern on my resume, so people would say, "Hey, did you know Monica?" And it was the greatest question, because I was like, "Oh no, but I did meet her when I worked the 8H desk at Saturday Night Live because she was a guest." So I was like, "Oh, thanks for a question that can talk about how qualified I am for your show." I have one quick question, and then we can start to really wind down. You know, they mention on the show that Lorne has done this for 45 of the 50 years, and he's in his 70s. He's not 80, but he will be soon, I think. I wonder, is the fire within the company to keep the show going, does it burn out a little bit when Lorne's not doing it anymore? Or do you feel like they'll find a way to make it work? I'll ask you first, Tim.
It's one of their most successful shows ratings wise, even though it's at midnight on a weekend. So like, I think it'll continue. But like, my worry as a fan would be them like gutting budgets or trying to trim things. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of like old-timey showbiz waste going on in there, but it is part of the ingredient that makes the show is what it is right now. And if you try to get rid of it, Lorne would just be like, then we won't make the show. And then when he's not doing that anymore, and they're asking like someone who's less of a big deal, like, sorry, we got to cut money from this thing and that thing, and you can't have blah, blah, and blah, blah. Like, they don't have the power to stand up. So hopefully you don't see it on the screen, but I feel like when he's gone, they go after trimming budgets, because everything's trimming budgets.
Yeah, Chris Tittle says it's a dynasty. I don't expect they stop it. And I mean, it's like with late night in general, it is probably more valuable for the clips that get taken from the show itself. But the show itself still has tremendous value. And Tim talking about it being a show that's on at 11:30, unless you're lucky enough to live on the West Coast, where not only was it 76 degrees today, but Saturday Night Live starts at 8:30, and the 50th anniversary special started at 5 p.m. So,
my best 40-something guy move ever is being able to watch SNL from 8:30 to 10. That's so nice.
and then you're in bed at 10:05.
Oh, if I need to be.
Tom, what time do you go to bed? No, Tom, do you agree with the idea that it'll find a way, it will evolve, it will continue? It's basically like the Terminator. It'll evolve, it'll find a way, it'll continue, it'll survive.
So I secretly thought SNL 50 was John Mulaney's audition to replace Lorne.
I agree.
And I'm curious, they're not going to get rid of the brand name.
Did he produce the show or something? Like, how was he auditioning?
I don't know. He was just really, he struck me for the pieces he was on. He struck me as like, I'm a producer telling you how it operates, rather than I was a writer. He was emphasizing his working man past rather than his stand-up stardom. I'll add one juicy inside detail for Saturday Night Live. They don't shoot it all in 8H anymore. They have taken over 2 huge studios that used to be owned by ABC on 66th Street. One giant soap opera studio that was All My Children, and then another old soap opera studio that housed The View for the first 10 years of the show. And they have more floor space in Manhattan than anybody. And I've been told that they're...
Is that just for pre-tapes, or are they actually broadcasting live?
For pre-tapes,
And the digital shorts and all that.
And
nice.
I just heard from camera guys. Like I heard from a camera guy that they just built for one thing. They built an entire pirate ship in there once, shot some stuff, and it never aired. You know, like
our
maybe it was the music.
Our mutual friend Kevin Miller is the producer on a podcast that Seth Meyers and Lonely Island do. And the Lonely Island guys are talking about back when they kind of invented the digital shorts, they were running around stealing shots. And he's like, now they have like a whole building. So I'm assuming that's the same building you're talking about.
A movie studio. So you wonder what's in there. And I could ramble about the technicalities of the building later, but they have so much floor space to shoot. I mean, unheard of for what we grew up with in Rockefeller Plaza. And yeah, so I think you're going to see at the very least, the only things rating nowadays are old brand names. And even if it's broken down, even if it's not on live at 11:30, new content with the word Saturday Night Live will continue at some form of a high budget after Lauren goes. And my prediction is Lauren will be replaced by someone with the star power of John Mulaney or Tina Fey doing it as a hobby, something like that.
Yeah, Ladastro in the chat with an amazing avatar of Astro Jetson, which I like to see who takes over. Yeah, that's a big part of the question. Now, the show will continue, but Taylor Swift will never be a musical guest again because she's over. Jenni
says Tom.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think that. I'm just quoting Tom.
I was at a Super Bowl party and I was like, hey, and it was my friend's kids. And I'm like, hey, you girls are watching the Super Bowl to see Taylor Swift. Like, no, we like Sabrina Carpenter better. And I'm judging the taste of America on these 5 girls who were at the Super Bowl watching the Kendrick, whatever the hell.
That is basically Nielsen ratings. So
yeah, that's actually what you just did. And we'll all get back together.
They do like they interview like 100 people and they say, well, there's 300 people in the U.S. So what if we?
Yeah, and by the way, Chris Tuttle, imagine this was the show that broke the end of Taylor Swift. Yes, thank you, Chris. So, Jenni, your thoughts about Lauren moving on? You seem to agree that John Mulaney, there's been talk of Seth Meyers. He's done a show for a while, but he seems to be somebody as a former head writer. I don't know. I mean, Colin Jost could be in sort of a secondary role. Those guys have been doing Weekend Update for 11 years, and I couldn't.
I had no idea.
They were the longest ones.
Yeah. But what are your thoughts, sort of, about the future of the show, Jenni?
I forget who I heard it from, but they're acting as if they had an inside scoop, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to be Tina." And as much as I love Tina, I feel like that doesn't sound like Tina was, 20 years ago. Like it needs to be someone
25
pushing it forward. You know what I mean?
And it's not about just like, could you do it? It's, do you want to do it? Like after like going back to like real person hours again, do you want to fucking stay up till 5 a.m. every Saturday for the rest of your life?
It is only 20 weeks a year, but I know what you're saying, Tim.
Like you just like, you're different. Like you used to do it. You were in shape for running marathons and you didn't run a marathon for 20 years. And then they're just like, well, you're older now. How about you run marathons again?
Like I like,
but just to build on both your points, remember, we're not talking about the marathon runner. We're talking about the dad who takes a picture of you with the medal after you finished a marathon. And I think that's the executive producer job.
But do you think Lauren goes to bed like at 1 a.m. when the instant the show's done? Like it's a fucking all-day show.
You are going to be there. Like
you're going to be there.
You're going to be there the entire time.
Actually, I'm going to ask a real question because you guys got the scoop. Does Lauren stay up on Tuesday night? No, Lauren goes out for dinner on Thursday. So I think the more I hear about Lauren is courting you while he has brilliant people he's picked to run things, and he truly is an executive. Am I wrong with that, or?
I'm sure he does more of that before, but like if you show up first day in the job and you're just like, here I am, I'm your boss, I'll be at home all night.
Yeah. No, look, I think that, in that Peacock documentary, the episode about the amazing 11th season, they talk about how they would try and do the show without Lauren, but then he'd show up at like 4 p.m. to start his day, and then they'd throw out everything that they had done. So I think that there's probably still an element of that. But yeah, I'm sure he doesn't spend as much time around there as possible. I want to get Shalako's thoughts, but again, Ladastra on the chat, my favorite from the special was Bill Murray showing why the public fell in love love with him to begin with. I did think he had a fairly funny Weekend Update bit.
Yeah, I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. What were some things that stood out for you, Shalako, good or bad, about this 50th anniversary special?
Well, I thought I spoke on that actually earlier, but
maybe I asked you, but go ahead and throw in one.
Yeah. Well, no, I just want to talk about as far as with Lauren, like, just a quick little fun fact for me. I had actually interviewed to be Lauren's third assistant. I had no idea what a third assistant was, but Ayala asked me, like, hey, would you be interested in being Lauren's third assistant? And of course, in my brain, I went, no. But I was like, well, I would, you interview for it. But I will say this. Over the years, the younger me, I didn't get it. I didn't get, I wouldn't say the power of the man, but just how he worked, how he operated, how he was able to build this thing, this machine, and let it work. And how in some ways you have to kind of shield yourself off from everyone coming in your space and wanting to, oh, Mr. Michaels, can you tell me about this? Can you tell me about, all of these things? When I was younger, and forgive me, I just thought the guy was a complete and total douchebag asshole. But
he's Dr. Evil.
I mean, he's Dr. Evil. Like, he's done some things. Like, I remember, just a quick story. We were doing Conan. I had to oversee the audience. I was like, basically, there's the guy. I had my plain clothes on. I'm running to the elevator in the mezzanine. Conan's audience is about to run out. The elevator door opens up on the mezzanine. Lauren is standing there. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get on the elevator. He literally just looks at me and goes, and I'm like, like, wait, what? And the elevator door closes. I'm like, oh shit, did he just do that to me?
He did just do that to you.
He did just do that to me, And the thing is, like I said, like I've been in this game now just as long as you guys, 30 years. Like, I get it. I kind of get it now. But just looking at it from the show itself, the show will go on because it has to. It's an institution now. The show's an institution now. NBC would be foolish to try and get rid of it, especially with what they already offer. That's why I thought the Peacock jokes were so interesting, because it's like you're still trying to get people to watch Peacock. Like, you're not, like settle down. So they're not going to get rid of it, But I agree with, I guess whoever said John Mulaney will probably take over, because I feel like he's now where they want to be. Yeah. Like Tina, mad love for Tina, respect for her. But I think, like you said, she was then, he's now. Mm-hmm. And I think now he can push that envelope forward, because one of the things that stood out for me, especially even with the concert and everything, were the amount of swear words that were just going out. Like, it was just so easy now. Like, there's no bleeping this and bleeping that. And the embracing. Because remember when we were coming up, I don't know if you guys remember, we were always told Lauren hated when, the cast would break and people didn't like this or whatever. Yeah. I mean, you're going to see breaking like every week. Like every week people are breaking out. People are doing this.
That's the Jimmy Fallon, Horatio Sands era.
Yeah,
by the way, I always hated it. And I liked Jimmy and Horatio less because of how often it would happen. I like it when it happens unexpectedly. There's a sketch with Eddie Murphy and Joe Piscopo where they're like throwing strawberries at each other, and it derails, and it's great. I think Joan Rivers was the host, but I like it when it happens naturally. But it's like Jimmy came out with that face and he's ready to do it, so it's great at first, but eventually the show turns into that. And the whole point was, we're not the Carol Burnett show. We don't do that. That's what the Carol Burnett show was. But look, it became part of the culture, and
that's the key. It's part of the culture. Those are the viral moments. You know what I mean? And that's where we are now. I mean, we have to.
Another example of like it's a live show. It's proving it. Like, seeing Meryl Streep blew a line, and they had to kind of dance around it and get back on track. And that was just like, instead of just being like, oh, how awful that is, it's like, oh, that was kind of fun. Like,
that was fun. Right? Exactly. That's all I see is that, oh, Meryl killed it. I was like, but did she? So it's just, this is where we are now. We're in the YouTube era now. Our content has to be given to us.
That's how Tom watched it.
Exactly. So
now I just watched a great 15 seconds of Black Company.
So that's what I mean. So now Mulaney can push that forward. He can get those moments, those clips that will, if you go on YouTube now, you can see a clip. It has 5 million views and so forth and so on. this is what gets people to kind of watch the show. So the show isn't going anywhere. I mean, Lauren has built a legacy that I don't think can be undone at this point.
Right.
So.
No, I agree. And it's fun to get to look back and sort of celebrate it. It's been wonderful talking to the four of you for more than 90 minutes. I could do it for another 90 minutes, but then we would actually
another shot. This is about Dave Chappelle was at that same party. This is young Dave.
Nice.
That was me. So,
young Shalako and young Dave.
Young Shalako, young Dave.
Yeah.
And then I have a photo where I'm with Dave Duchovny, and he has a shirt buttoned down here, and I'm kind of leaning on his chest. So I never show that photo anywhere.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, no. But I love the X-Files. X-Files was great. Favorite show.
Taya Leone might get upset with you, but in any case, I think that it's fun to take a look back. And there was a conversation earlier about looking at that studio, that wide shot, and you see all the incredibly talented and brilliant people and Chris Kattan who were all there. And it was just amazing to look at the studio and see everybody except that one guy and just be so in awe of it. And again, I could talk to you guys for another 2+ hours, but then we'd be longer than the special. But if you have enjoyed this reminiscing, please tune in to either of these YouTube channels tomorrow, because I will be doing this again at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I will be joined by our friend Andrew Giovanni, who you see back there with Jenny.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And the great Ron Mata.
Oh, God, look how young he is. Ron, my guy.
And so we will continue talking. And any of our mutual acquaintances and friends who are watching this and thinking, well, why didn't you ask me to do this? I got no problem stopping it too. We can continue. The Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary isn't until October 11th. All right. I think after then I'd have to stop doing these, but I would love to tell these stories. I would love to look back, page friends, non-page friends. So thank you all for making the time.
Thanks for having me
to do this. I want to give everybody an opportunity to promote their wares. Shalako, what would you like people to know if they want more Shalako? Should they go and look for Bladtcast episode 267 where we talked about the first Black Panther?
They should do that. They can do that, but I mean, I don't know. I haven't been doing much anything. I'm just an old father who's paying college tuition right now.
Is amazing.
So,
Shalako, push your TikTok.
Okay, TikTok. Yes, I am on TikTok. What's my name on TikTok, Tom?
I don't know. I just always say Shalako just popped up.
Yes,
but you know,
director
about
SG.
Yeah,
I do short films. I do all of that stuff. But
and a few of your things have popped off.
Yeah. A couple of things. Actually, just quick note: one of my old actors who was in one of my short films, he plays Garrett Morris in the Saturday Night Live movie. Lamore Morris, great actor.
I worked with Lamore Morris. I cast him in a pilot I did, an animated pilot for Adult Swim.
Oh, see,
and my wife and I loved him on New Girl, so that's great.
Lamore was great on New Girl. He's Garrett Morris in the Saturday Night Live movie. I'm here. I survived. So that's you guys look for me.
Yeah, I'll try to not wait 400 episodes before I have you back, Shalako.
Yes, please.
I'll do a better job keeping in touch. Same with Tim Saccardo. Tim Saccardo, where would you like to direct people to?
Nowhere really. I guess you can Google my name if you're interested. Like, I'm not really on social media. It's kind of brain poison, so I try to stay away from it. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, instead of following Tim, you subscribe to the Bladtcast, Bladtcast.
I agree. All the rabid Tim fans follow Bladtcast. Subscribe.
Yeah. Tom Kelly. If only there was a show with your name in it that people could get you every week.
On social media and the clip of me pulling a Tim Saccardo in the Saturday Night Live studio on my Instagram, the brain poison I like to call Tom Kelly Show. And I have a podcast, Tom Kelly Show, but I'd also like to take this moment to say that Saturday Night Live will outlast NBC as a brand name. And most importantly, if you want to see Chris Kattan doing stand-up, he will be in Spokane, Washington, February 20th. He will be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, February 25th. And he is performing in Kenai, Arkansas, Alaska, March 6th, but can't catch him there. He's doing an Alaska tour with the Sarah Palin. I actually am making
I was really excited for a second. That's the team up that I think we all wanted. And Jenny Kramer, where would you like people to go other than our video audience seeing an incredibly old photo of some of us, including Andrew Tavani, who will be on our next episode?
You
Andrew
can
without the beard is
always
hilarious.
watch 90 Day Fiance and keep my bills paid.
Ah,
I'm also Jenni Gilroy at Instagram if you want to see what donuts I'm eating.
Flaky Pastry Friday is still happening,
Pastry
right?
Friday is still very much happening.
Flaky Pastry Fridays.
Yeah,
Yes,
there was
every Friday I post what I'm eating.
like 8 years ago, my wife was working in New York for Orange is the New Black, and I said that I was going to meet up with Jenny, and she's like, "Oh, for Flaky Pastry Friday," and I'm like, "Yeah, you better believe it." So I'm glad it endures and it continues. It survives, much like Saturday Night Live. Flaky Pastry Friday 50.
It does.
I just followed you. There you go.
Wonderful.
Hey, Flaky Pastry.
Well, thank you all. And this was a ton of fun. I'll come up with other excuses for us to get together, and fun to mix and match different people. Tune in for more of this in our next episode, and who knows after that. But thanks again to everyone. Thanks again to the chat. And we will see you next time on the Bladtcast and elsewhere.